Joe Biden is supposedly going to announce his vice presidential pick by August 1st. And for some reason, folks are worried about the potential issues that the front runners could have, like President Obama's former National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, who'll be here tomorrow, by the way, who could, give you-know-who a chance to go after Obama's legacy, and others question the loyalty of Kamala Harris for not showing remorse, I guess, after going after Biden. I mean, is this real? I mean, isn't this what happens anytime someone is chosen to be the person and then they choose someone else? I mean, we saw this happen with you-know-who and his people. People were freaking out because they said, well, how's he going to get along with it? Isn't this normal par for the course, or is this the sexism people are trying to point it out to be? Joy.
Well, I think that with Kamala, it was a little bit of a personal thing when she said, and that little girl was me. It's kind of like a personal way of telling a story, and I don't think that went over very well with the Biden campaign. And then the next day she had T-shirts made. I remember that. And it backfired on her. Having said that, I think that Joe Biden has to pick whoever he thinks is going to help get him elected. We are in an emergency situation. We need somebody who can get us out of the mess that Donald Trump has brought us into. And it looks as though Joe Biden may be able to do it. I'm not saying 100%, right, but I think that, and by the way, I like all of these candidates. Each one of them has something great to recommend her. But they also all have some kind of baggage. But I was just reminded that when George Herbert Walker Bush was running against Reagan, he pointed out that Reagan was using voodoo economics, and he still became his vice presidential candidate. So this is par for the course in many ways.
Yeah, that's what I think. Do you think there's a double standard at play here, Sonny?
Well, I do, because Chris Dodd, who is helping Vice President Biden on this vice presidential campaign choice, sort of leaked to the press that he had a problem with Kamala Harris, because when he brought up the bruising debate, Kamala laughed and said, well, that's politics. And apparently Dodd was confused by that and incensed by that and almost enraged by it, and felt that the debate was, sort of a gimmick, and called it cheap. And as Joyce said, this is par for the course. This is what's done when it comes to debates. This is what's done when it comes to politics. And so why is Kamala Harris being held to a different standard? And why is Chris Dodd leaking things to the press? I was really surprised at that. I was surprised that Joe Biden would have someone on his search committee team leaking that kind of information. And I just thought, how many times are women told to stay in their place, to do something that is different that men always do? And I also just thought, Biden himself called Obama naive when it came to a matter of foreign policy. And Obama still chose him to be his vice president. And I think that that shows real confidence and real strength in a candidate when he chooses a rival. And for me, I just thought that the suggestion somehow that Joe Biden isn't strong enough to choose a rival said a lot. Joe Biden really needs to think not only of the next 4 years, he needs to think about the next 8 years. He needs to think about the next 12 years, because look at the damage that Trump has done in 3.5 years. He has undone all of the most of the Obama administration's work. And the suggestion somehow that Joe Biden doesn't want to be, outshone by his vice presidential pick is ludicrous. He has to think into the future. And people are saying he wants to choose Karen Bass because she doesn't want the presidency. Well, he needs to groom the next president. So, and I think she's a fine candidate. I think she's a wonderful candidate. We've had her on the show, but he shouldn't not choose her because she doesn't want to be president.
So, Megan, does this seem odd that they are sort of making this kind of big deal about this, or is this, as I believe it is, just kind of par for the course?
Well, it's par for the course in the sense that there's going to be articles and inside Beltway gossip about who's going to be vetted and who's going to be chosen. Chris Dodd didn't leak anything. He was actually on the record in that Politico piece, and he was saying that there was issues with what Kamala Harris did. Yeah, but there's a big difference between leaking and being on the record. I mean, that's leaking something internally on a campaign is, as far as I'm concerned, a deadly sin. So choosing a running mate is like you're getting married. You're in very intimate situations with people. You're literally in physical close contact. If obviously the coronavirus makes things different, but if Joe Biden becomes president, they will be doing every significant decision going forth in the next 4 years together, and you have to have some unity. And I know better than anybody else, if you don't have a personal connection, it can bring its own set of odious pitfalls. Susan Rice is the person that right now is being gossiped about. The New York Times has a profile about her right now as being the real frontrunner. He has a long history and personal relationship with her. They're very close friends from their time working in the Obama White House. And the interesting part about Susan Rice is it will raise all these questions about her foreign policy experience on Syria, Benghazi, Libya. As far as I'm concerned, as a Republican, her foreign policy record is an absolute horror show. So it's an interesting choice just because it brings up a different set of baggage from the Obama administration that is a much easier oppo to present to the American public than it would be with Kamala. I actually think Kamala's biggest problem is just that she really was a terrible campaigner. She dropped out before the Iowa caucus. If you think she's great at running for office, maybe have a little chat with Tulsi Gabbard. And I think that's the real problem, is that she just really hasn't performed in the way that she was really expected to. All of these women, as you said, I think the Democratic coalition will support. It's just whether or not the independents and center-right people who are sick of all the drama that has come with the Trump years end up caring. And I think the question about how big of an influence the vice presidential pick will be this time is to be seen, because a lot of people just think, as Joy said earlier, that this is all hands on deck and it doesn't matter.
And Chris Dodd actually did leak that information. He did leak it.
Okay, so
Chris Dodd
he did leak it because what he did was he told a long time
we're going right to
yes,
we'll be right back.